Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week, love is in the air.
Hi.
Hello.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to all who celebrate. I don't know.
I don't think it's like that makes it sound like it's like a religious holiday. It's like, we don't
Some people treat it like a religious holiday, man. Some people treat it like that.
Not in this household.
What does a house look like that does not celebrate Valentine's Day?
I don't know. I mean, you could kind of.
I'm sure there's probably a lot.
You could kind of say that maybe Valentine's Day. Like, I never thought about that. Maybe you could say it's a religious holiday, like Saint Valentine.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird holiday.
Largely just a like a greeting card.
Yeah,
holiday.
I was gonna say even less so than like Christmas, which has much more direct like religious roots, obviously.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day is always kind of an oddity,
or even Easter for that.
Even matter. Easter, yeah. But yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We said love is in the air. And
I swear, if you
that is why. No, that is why we said love is in the air, because it's Valentine's Day.
The other reason is because we're talking about Punch Drunk Love.
We're talking about a film called Punch Drunk Love.
It's got love in the title.
Amazing.
Like some kind of Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, I still think this is kind of an odd pick for our Valentine's Day episode, but I am not going to complain about it because
you're the one who picked it.
No, exactly. I didn't know you'd agree to it because it's kind of I don't know. It's an unconventional.
It's a film about love.
Yeah, it's just an unconventional like romance movie. If you were gonna pick a romance movie to do on Valentine's Day,
I don't know.
In my mind.
In your mind.
Maybe I'm totally off base.
Maybe
here.
he's totally off base. Anyway, I'm Micah, by the way,
and I'm Robbie.
And we're recently
logged. We talk about the movies.
Not
every week, obviously.
This week we're talking about our second Paul Thomas Anderson feature on the podcast.
Yeah, I was looking through our podcast page last night, which, by the way, is at Recently Logged on Letterboxd, if you want to go check it out. And I had almost slipped my mind that we had already done There Will Be Blood on the podcast.
How did that slip your mind, Ruby?
And I was like, oh my goodness, it's our second Paul Thomas Anderson movie on the podcast. My favorite director is finally getting the attention he so desperately needed from my like, I don't know. I was going to say only outlet for film discussion, but like I have a letterbox and everything too. So, but yeah, we're talking about Punch Drunk Love. Let's give the people the rundown of what they need to know about the movie.
Let's. So Punch Drunk Love is a 2002 film.
Yeah,
rated R. It's an hour and 35 minutes. Its little IMDb description is socially frustrated Barry Egan calls a phone sex line to curb his loneliness. Little does he know it will land him in trouble and will jeopardize his burgeoning.
I don't remember how to say that, actually.
Burgeoning romance with mysterious Lena.
Doubt that's how you pronounce.
So do I, but I don't know how to say that. Why is it used in the IMDb description? Who wrote that?
Maybe you just need to rise to their level, Micah.
Apparently. The cast features Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Emily Watson.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Love to see it.
A lot of other people.
I mean, it's a pretty lean cast, honestly.
Luis, how do you say the last name? Guzmán?
I don't remember.
I don't know
specifically.
He's cool.
But still,
I like him.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's got an Always Sunny alumni in it.
It does. Gail the Snail is here.
Gail the Snail is
which
here.
I did not recognize her for a majority of the movie, and then I saw her like face outside of the context of the movie. I'm like, wait a minute, just a minute. That's Gail the Snail.
Written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. The score is by Brion. Cinematography by Robert Elswit.
Heck yeah, man.
Just a lot of cool, talented people working on this. And that's, I can't really think of anything else you need to know about it.
I just realized that you said phone sex line on the podcast, and I don't know if we'll have to mark this episode explicit.
I don't think we will. I was kind of surprised. I thought it was funny that it mentioned that, because like,
right, that's like that's not like the major plot point. It is a plot point, but it's not like the plot of the movie. You know?
It makes him sound scummier than he
exactly.
is. He literally calls it to like just talk to someone.
Right. But yeah, that's Punch Drunk Love. Which, fun fact also, if you want to list this in the basic facts, it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie.
That's not a basic fact.
It's a fact of life.
That's an opinion.
Well, Micah, speaking of opinions...
Opinions can be changed if necessary.
Speaking of opinions, let's move into the next segment and let the people know what we thought of Punch Drunk Love.
Well, let's do it. So, Robbie, before you spoiled your opinions on this movie in the basic facts, what do you think of this movie?
It is a bold assumption to be like, he's told us it's like his favorite movie. That's all he has to say about.
That's all you have to say.
I'm just like, it's my favorite film. And then Micah can just go from there. He can carry the rest of the episode.
I think that's what's gonna happen, Robbie. I think that's what's gonna happen here today.
Well, to elaborate a little further on my rather
don't elaborate
claim.
too far. These are the opening.
I know. But I just watched Punch Drunk Love last night, but I watched it for the first time last year, I believe. And I loved it. I was already a big fan of a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's other movies.
Crazy.
Like There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread.
Who would have thought?
But Punch Drunk Love, it's a great film, in my opinion. I really love the way it's shot. I really love the score. I love the central performances. Adam Sandler is... I don't want to say giving his career best because Uncut Gems exists now, but definitely his career best as of like 2002. He's just amazing here. And I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson, obviously, I think does a great job directing the movie. It's got a great screenplay. It's got a great sense of rhythm and pacing to it. It's just like a really sweet and... I don't know what's another word like sweet.
Wow.
I don't know. It's a very touching movie. It's a very personal.
It's a very
movie for
empathetic and intimate movie.
Yeah, intimate. That's a good word for it. But yeah, it's kind of magical. I don't know. When I hear movie magic, I think about this movie because like it's so. It doesn't strike me as a movie that should be like life-changingly good in like premise or. You know, even what like the actual plot is, it sounds kind of weird to be like, oh, Punch Drunk Love, what a picture. But then like I watch it again and I'm like, how do they do that? You know. But yeah, I adore Punch Drunk Love.
He adores Punch Drunk Love.
What do you think of Punch Drunk Love?
What do I think? I'm not as head over heels crazy for Punch Drunk Love as you can imagine. Actually, on a first watch, it didn't work for me as much as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But when we rewatched it, it worked a heck of a lot better. Plus, I was just like in a better mindset for like watching a film like that.
Yeah.
But man, like I really love this film for a lot of reasons. Especially specifically kind of the uniqueness in which it goes about presenting everything, like in terms of, again, that quote unquote movie magic, I think is brought on with specific precision and reason for what they're going for.
Yeah,
you don't really see
absolutely.
A romance film like this.
I have not found another romance film like this.
That just has this much like... I saw it described as like a mysticism almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like how love is portrayed in this as mostly a cosmic force.
Right.
Which is cool. And then it's shot amazingly well.
Oh my goodness.
Adam Sandler is really, really good in this. And unfortunately his character is very similar to me.
I feel like everyone can relate to Adam Sandler's performance in this, at least a little bit.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of specific stuff, too, that is very, very similar to me. So every time I watch this, I'm like, dang, maybe representation does matter.
Right? I'm like, my goodness. For those who don't know, it's about a man. I don't know if they actually said it in the plot description we listed in the basic facts, but
that's another thing I didn't like about that plot description.
What did they describe as like an oddball or something?
Socially frustrated Barry Egan. That's a weird description of him.
He's a adult man with 7 sisters who has severe social anxiety.
Yeah, and it's clearly, it's been talked about in interviews and stuff, that like he is clearly written to be some form of neurodivergent, but they never really wanted to specify
they never really explicitly say.
Yeah, to kind of keep it more open and relatable to anyone who tunes in, which I think is neat.
Yes.
You can just take it as, he's got really strong social anxiety, or he's autistic, or he has bipolar disorder, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot in there.
Yeah.
And it's a really strong performance from Adam Sandler to portray such a relatable figure operating under that, and from Paul Thomas Anderson to write an empathetic character that hits a lot of those beats. Because he's a hard character to make so empathetic.
I was about to say, he's like a lying, angry, sad person, and Paul Thomas Anderson makes me feel like he's just like a little teddy bear man for part of this movie, which is crazy.
He lies. I was about to say, he's a character who lies all the time because he's so socially anxious and also has like really bad anger issues. But yeah, anyway, I give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh yeah, I didn't say my rating. I give it a 5 out of 5. Go figure.
But let's get into some questions. What are some questions to get us into the discussion more?
Since I mentioned the cinematography being one of my favorite things about this movie, I was going to ask what you thought of it.
Actually,
just how it's shot.
A very interesting point, because I think
that's one of its strongest things that it has going for it.
Visually, like, alone, honestly, and I think that's something that's very interesting about this movie, and that's why I think it's so uniquely shot, is visually on its own, I'm not a big fan of how it looks. And let me elaborate.
Like, you don't like the compositions a lot of the time?
I think it looks... I think on a base, a lot of times it looks a little like plain and boring, but
really?
I think that's for a purpose. Like not the blocking or the actual shots. I was about to say
the lighting and blocking and everything lends it a really dynamic look.
But like what I'm going for is it looks very like natural, I guess, like very naturalistic.
Yeah.
Like extremely so. It's very gray. It's very.
I don't know about. I mean.
Like there's a lot of just gray and white settings.
I mean, yeah, there is.
So like, let me finish.
I was about to say, there's big splashes.
Let me finish this complete thought, Ravi. Let me finish this complete. I specifically marked the cinematography as being one of my favorite parts. Let me finish my gosh darn thought. So like you have this kind of setting that is very mundane, very gray, very white.
Yes,
and like. Especially, and I saw in the trivia, and I don't know if it's true because it's IMDb trivia, but that they shot on a specific kind of film that allowed for a lot more underexposed shots to get a lot of like deeper shadows.
Yeah, and
I think like you can very much tell because although it's very mundane, very gray, very simple backdrops with very natural lighting, everything is just extremely well like composed in the lighting, and then the color is brought in very unique ways through different lens flares and specific costuming choices, and occasionally the lighting itself.
The color lighting in this is so cool,
and it's just like it's a really neat and kind of uniquely shot film. I've never seen another film that looks like this. It's very over the top. But at the same time, because of the way like the setting and the lighting itself is actually done, it feels very down to earth and very simple.
I know you haven't seen Magnolia, and I don't know if Robert Elswit shot that movie. I should know that.
I think he shot most of it.
Yeah,
I was about to say he shot most of Paul Thomas Anderson.
But it has a very similar look to this. They don't use blue nearly as much, but I think it's probably like the same film, like type of film.
You know, he shot Nightcrawler, Robbie.
Robert Elswit is probably like one of the best cinematographers. But yeah, no, I personally really love the way it's shot, obviously. I mean, cinematography is like one of my favorite things about movies. Like the way people shoot and move the camera is like one of the most magical things about movies for me. And I love the way the camera moves in this. I think it was on the Wikipedia page, but they had like an article where they interviewed a lot of the crew of this movie. And they said that Jacques Demy's films were a big inspiration for how this film was shot. And you can definitely tell.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's got a very kind of classical sense of how it's shot in terms of it very much runs and kind of like watching like a Kubrick film, like even like a more modern Kubrick film. He still uses the stuff that you'd see in his early black and white work of just like the very strong sense of like lighting and placement,
very purposeful way of shooting movies.
A lot of like in a specific way that a lot of movies after, honestly, they moved away from like celluloid, just don't get
film
shot
stock.
like that. I was about to say like right after like right into like the 2000s.
Right about the 2000s. They kind of stopped shooting movies that way. But yeah, like you haven't seen The Young Girls of Rochford yet. But the camera moves in a very similar way in that movie.
I've seen a lot of scenes from the
but like the way they shoot interiors and like even the exterior stuff, like when Barry's initially running away from like the truck and everything, that it literally looks like a shot from Young Girls of Rochford. I'm like,
And something that you mention all the time, which I wouldn't say it the way you would say it, but I understand what you mean. Is you're always like, it's like a musical.
It is.
It's not.
It's like a musical. Everyone's dancing around and the score's singing.
Everyone is interacting with the music.
Yes.
But it's not a musical.
No, it's not a musical. It's like one step removed from a musical. My God,
it's closer to whatever Baby Driver is than a musical.
It's like if Baby Driver was awesome.
But again, I think that really plays up the kind of unique fact of like the way this film goes about presenting love as kind of like this cosmic force. And again, I think that's an interesting. I have a question actually from this. I thought about this earlier. What do you think of the way the harmonium, like the significance of the harmonium and the way the harmonium is introduced into the film? Because it's very interesting.
Yeah,
and I didn't think much of it the first time I watched the film. I was just like,
because you didn't know where it was going.
Exactly. I was just like, oh, that's kind of weird. The car like completely flipped over, and then they dropped off a harmonium and left. That's weird. But this time I was like, that's really like interesting because the harmonium is a very central like symbolic element to the movie.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting.
And it's introduced from a random car crashing in front of him.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a very violent like force that brings the harmonium into his life. And I think, personally, like the harmonium kind of represents Barry's like soul. Not like in that sense, not like a spiritual soul, but like his soul, like romantic soul, that kind of thing.
The heart of his character.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
I mean, heck, his spiritual soul wouldn't be a bit.
Yeah, but he like it's being like thrown in front of him, and when he finally takes charge of it, like he starts to get his life more in control, and like he slowly starts to repair it and tune it and everything, like as the movie goes on. Until like the end where he brings it like to Lena.
And it kind of fits into that thing like with the car crash and then the car just immediately driving away. Like I don't know, that kind of makes me think of that line of like I don't know if things aren't okay because I don't know how other people are.
Exactly. No, one of the things that's very unique about this movie is the kind of like surreal world that it takes place in. And I think surreal is the right word. It can be a very surreal movie, which is one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, it very much operates inside of not only Barry's mind, but also like this almost like mystic force operating around Barry's mind.
Yeah, no, it's it's a magical movie, man. But yeah, I've always viewed the harmonium as that sort of thing. Just it's a very straightforward reading of it, but I think it works.
I just thought it was specifically interesting.
It's a really cool element.
It's such a unique way to kick off a movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen a movie be like, let's start our movie by having a car crash, having them drop a harmonium off, the harmonium and the car crash having zero actual plot relevance. And that is it.
Well, the movie opens with the pudding stuff, like the coupon call, and then he walks outside.
Because the coupon call, Robbie. Which, by the way, Paul Thomas Anderson is hilarious to me. The fact that Robbie loves Paul Thomas Anderson so much is hilarious.
He's my favorite director.
Because technically speaking, you could pull off that 90% of his movies are period pieces, which Robbie's always like, oh, I hate period pieces.
Okay.
And then this one is based off of a true story, which Robbie's always like, oh, I hate based off of true stories.
I think Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the few people I know of who like pulls it off well. Kubrick is another person who can do that really well, I think.
See, Robbie, you're so weird because you literally just mean I like good movies.
Yeah, I know.
And there are tons and tons of good period pieces and good based on true stories.
I know. I just, the ones I had seen up to that point were like so boring, and then I finally started watching good ones, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they're not bad actually.
But yeah, anyway, what I was gonna say though is that this is based on a true story, and the fact that the pudding section,
the pudding guy
from Healthy Choice, that was the real thing. There was a guy who heard about this promotional flyer plan. And found that the pudding scanned 4-1, and they ended up spending. I think the math was right too. He spent like $3,000, and he got 1.2 million flyer miles.
Okay,
so they canceled the program immediately after that.
I still think like one of the most satisfying and like cool plot points in this movie is like at the end where he can like finally go with Lena everywhere. I think that's so cool.
Right, his little random interest leads to him being able to fly with Lena everywhere.
His random pudding interest leads to the perfect like situation for them to stay together.
I saw somebody, I forget where I saw this. I think it was probably on one of either the top reviews or reviews from my friends on Letterboxd or something. They were like, she was like, I thought it was really funny because the way Barry talks about the pudding deal in this is the way I talked about AMC stubs to all of my friends and family.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many really cool details in this movie that I just absolutely adore. Like, stuff like that, like the pudding.
And again, I think it's really cool that I think the heart of the film is its relatability. Because even if you don't inherently relate to the way Barry interacts with the world, you can relate to his loneliness.
Exactly,
and if you don't relate to his loneliness, you can relate to, like, again, the way he interacts with the world, the way he feels stuff, the way he's presented as a character. I think that's very interesting, like as a heart of a film. I know a lot of that, or at least I imagine, I haven't watched Magnolia, but I know a lot of that, like, stems from the fact that, like, he wanted to do something so much more intimate after doing Magnolia.
What's so strange, I wouldn't even say intimate, I would say just small scale, because Magnolia is like this sprawling, like almost not Odyssey is the wrong word, but like sprawling film that covers so much, like just it's a lot of ground. It's a very intimate movie in a lot of ways. Like it very much intimately covers the lives of like 7 different people. So it's it feels very large. And this feels so dialed back because there's only like 2 main characters in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's just. I saw in an interview that he felt kind of burnt out after finishing Magnolia.
Dude, if I made Magnolia, I might not make another movie.
And he wanted to do something that completely like turned directions.
Yeah.
And he also wanted to work with Adam Sandler.
I still find it so funny, the like origin story of this movie, because it's always he just finished Magnolia and he's like, I want to make a short one now. He's like, I've always wanted to do a film with Adam Sandler. And then like the best movie of all time was
according to what I found too, like he did interviews and people were like, oh, who do you want to? He's like, I want to do a movie with Adam Sandler and Daniel Day-Lewis. And people thought he was joking because Adam Sandler had only a reputation of being in like stupid comedies to that point.
Yeah, like critical failure studio comedies was his reputation at that point.
And his next two films, he worked with Adam Sandler and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Which is crazy, man. Oh, man. Adam Sandler, I always forget like just how many like tiny mannerisms he throws into all of the scenes here.
His performance is so good in this.
And then like I'll see him like just react to the smallest things happening on screen. I'm like, this is crazy, man. What are you doing?
Are you very food?
Very food, exactly.
I have another question.
All right.
The contentious point. What do you think of the way Lena is done in this movie? Because that's kind of up for discussion on if she's done in a justifiable way, because she very much lacks character.
Yeah, she lacks a lot of
romantic interest.
She lacks a lot of characterization, but she feels very authentic.
I was about to say,
when I'm watching it,
and the the only female character presented as not malicious.
Right. Well, his sisters aren't malicious. They really care about him. They just don't know how to care about him. Like they don't know how to care for him and show him love.
They're pretty mean to him.
I mean, they are pretty mean to him, which, you know. But, like, I don't know. At least the one sister, like, you can tell really cares about. I mean,
yeah, you can tell
Barry.
that they care about him.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
They're just not very considerate to him and kind of mean to him sometimes. But, yeah, no, Lena, yes, is generally speaking, like, the only positive female role in this movie, which is a shame. Because like,
I mean, there are only like 3 characters, to be fair,
right? Like, but I mean, even coming off of something like Magnolia has like way more in-depth female characters than this. But yeah, I don't know. Lena's very interesting because she basically functions just as like this dream scenario of like someone meeting someone who's like desperately lonely and like incredibly anxious all the time. Like she's a very considerate and understanding person who just loves Barry, and that's like her whole character.
No, it's very interesting, and again I like the way that she's framed in the story in terms of the fact, because again I know like the story could very easily again come across as a lot more scummy than it does.
It sounds like when I explain Punch Drunk Love to people, it sounds very scummy and like kind of weird and gross, but it's not.
Especially being like the way that it's framed and why he goes about making the titular call of the movie. The way like Adam Sandler's like Barry would never, like his character would literally never try and like go out with her because he's too, like that's again, as
he wouldn't even consider it.
As he says, that's just not something.
It's not something he would do. Yeah,
he wouldn't consider it. There's too much social stuff there. But she sees, like, from his sisters, she sees him first, and then she becomes like infatuated with him.
I was about to say,
fixated
on him.
Again, you got that shot in the store with like the tracking shot of them together. That's
I don't know how I missed that in the past viewings.
But again, I tweeted this out because I think it really would be interesting, and I think this goes to say like how like interestingly her character is done. Is I would love, and I think it would work almost as well to do a movie like this done from Lena's perspective.
Well, it's interesting because Lena, in theory, is like just as lonely as Barry is.
Yeah.
But for a completely different reason.
Yeah, no, and that's what, again, like her character is really fascinating for what you're given. And I'd love to see more from her.
Absolutely, man. Emily Watson here is so good.
So they make a very unique pairing, but I'd love to see like from her perspective some of the earlier stuff, like, and everything like that. I think that would be very neat.
Yeah, we watched a short film with a lot of like outtakes and footage they didn't use in the movie. It's called Blossoms and Blood. and it has a scene with Lena like alone in her apartment waiting for Barry, and it's quite good.
Yeah, see, and I think though with how Barry is written in this, you had to do it from his perspective.
Yo, you
Otherwise,
have
he
to,
wouldn't
yeah.
be as nearly as empathetic as he is in this. Because
No, I'm
again,
glad it's a very subjective movie.
I was about to say,
from
'cause
his
it's got to
perspective.
get you behind him as a person before, because again, he has a lot of very bad tendencies.
Yeah, I was about to say he's a very like sometimes violently angry, never like towards people, but sometimes very violently angry, lying person.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see their like her love for him balanced off of her finding out about all of these like interesting tendencies of his.
Yeah.
And
I honestly think it's just a really sweet romance. Like,
yeah, no, like it frames their romance
Yeah.
in such like a, I guess like a sweet way.
it's
you
a very
know?
tender plot line between them. Like, I never feel like either of them are being like forced into anything.
Yeah, they
you
never
know?
they never feel forced.
Because
They
I
never-
get that icky feeling from some romance movies sometimes, where like the movie just kind of pushes them together and calls it a day.
Yeah, again, this movie, and it almost sounds like this does when I say that like love is treated as a quote unquote like cosmic force. But if anything, that's more how they just kind of end up next to each other.
Yeah, I was about to say, it doesn't feel like they're being pushed together. It feels like a beautiful force is like pulling them towards each other because they both need each other.
'Cause they both need each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, especially any of the scenes where it's Lena and Barry like interacting, like their chemistry
man.
and the dialogue and the way it's gone about written is just really like, I don't know, like almost like comforting the way it's
so-
gone about.
it's
very
beautiful,
it's
man.
very cool.
I'll stand by, like I said, like this is like my favorite movie probably. So it's obviously like my favorite romance movie, but the way romance is handled in this movie is so unique, and it feels just so sweet and touching and genuine.
Well, see, that's why you were like, oh, it's a weird Valentine's Day movie. And I was like, I don't think it's that weird of a Valentine's movie because of that. Because I
Yeah.
think it's a main central force of the movie. And like the main central thing you take away from the movie is that love is awesome.
Yeah,
and sweet. And
exactly.
cool. That's like what the movie's going for, is that we all need love.
Yeah, no, I know that. Like, I get why it makes sense as a Valentine's Day pick. I was just saying, most people, when they think of like Valentine's Day movies, they think of like 2000s chick flicks, or at least that's what I think of. Which
You know,
there are
this is-
plenty of good
this is a
ones.
2000s romance film.
It's not a chick flick, though.
But it's a romance.
Exactly.
film.
It is a kind of art housey romance film, which is strange.
Apparently, I saw a thing that said Paul Thomas Anderson described it as an art house Adam Sandler romance comedy.
I mean, yeah, that's what it is. Which, okay, I was gonna ask about this because it's one of the strangest elements to me, and it kind of changes like viewing to viewing for me. What do you think of like the comedic elements of this movie? Because sometimes like I watch this movie and I'm like, I don't laugh at too many parts.
Yeah.
And then there are other times where I'm like dying laughing at like some of the like stuff where like Barry is very emotional. And I don't know, the like weird empathetic line to Barry, like sometimes it's supposed to, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny sometimes, but it is funny. I don't know. It's a very strange movie, the way comedy functions in
No,
this
the way
movie.
comedy functions is very interesting because it's kind
Yeah.
of a background feature.
Yeah.
But I often think a lot more like the comedy, I don't think is ever there as a strong thing because you're not supposed to.
I mean, it's not the focus of the movie.
Well, you're not supposed to think the stuff that's happening to Barry or what Barry is feeling or what Barry does is like funny. You're
Yeah,
not supposed-
it's not
supposed to be making him the joke.
I was about to say, he's not like some like oblivious guy who you're supposed to mock for how dumb he is. Kind of like something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is that way.
Yeah. I mean, he is oblivious, but it's not.
He is oblivious, but it's not, the movie isn't asking you to like mock him.
Yeah, but at the same time, a lot of the quote-unquote comedy comes from a lot of situational things that he runs into.
exactly.
Like, again, like him only being able to focus on one thing at a time with that conversation with him and Lena when
my
like
goodness.
the stuff in the warehouse is falling over.
That scene is phenomenally well shot, and it's so well paced and edited, which I found out this movie had a female editor and she kind of killed.
Nice.
It's very well edited.
And again, like that scene I think is really funny. So I think like that's kind of the way it often goes about comedy, is more like like overwhelming stuff instead of just being like, oh, you should be laughing at this because he's a little weird guy.
No, it's funny. The stuff that I laugh at the most is like just random lines of dialogue that Barry has, like the "What is your name, sir?"
What is your name, sir?
But just like stuff like that, where it's like that's not how people talk.
No, I mean, yeah,
like not how people in movies talk. Like there's just some like painfully realistic dialogue in this that's just so funny to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not how people exactly. Because I was about to say, I feel like honestly, it is a lot more.
No, that is how people talk. Exactly.
That phone, and I mean, there have been oftentimes like the Philip Seymour Hoffman phone call is like what's considered like one of the best scenes of the movie. I know most
so good,
I've seen tons of people talk about it, the way it's framed, the way the dialogue is written, the way it's edited, but it is really fantastic.
So phenomenal. I love that scene so much.
Speaking of which, Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, the first time I watched it, I hadn't seen like, I don't know, I wasn't like overly familiar with him.
I love Philip Seymour Hoffman.
But like he's so good here, and he's so much fun. There's
Such
like
a
just
good actor.
They sprinkled in just the right amount of Philip Seymour Hoffman in this
I needed
movie.
more.
You wanted more?
Not in this movie inherently, but like more of him. I need more Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I was about to say part of the strength of this movie, I think, is how lean it is. Just from
there's no room for him to be in this movie.
you got the Mattress Man commercial. And that's all good and well, but it's quite short.
Apparently, John C. Reilly was originally going to be one of the brothers.
Okay, I was like, please don't tell me they were going to cast him as Dean, but
no, he was going to be one of the brothers. But then again, he was like, he didn't take it because there was so little. Like he was like this. Why am I here?
Right? It's like, why would you want to cast like a real quote real actor in like a role like
you're
that?
Saying they're not real.
I said quote real actor. I think all the brothers are like actually really funny in a lot of their like small like physical performance stuff.
And they're all real brothers too. Remember?
I think that's really funny too. There's a great shot of them getting out of the truck when it holds on the one brother and then like slowly pans back. It's so good.
But yeah, like because again, there's no room for like anyone else.
No,
you have Barry, and to a lesser extent, but still a big extent, you have Lena, and that's like all the film has time and room for.
I mean, the only time it breaks Barry's perspective to my memory is to deal with the Mattress Man stuff and to like set that up, because it doesn't even have Lena in any scenes outside of the stuff with Barry.
Yeah,
it's a very subjective movie in the way it's shot and told and everything.
Yeah, I was about to say the only reason it breaks to Mattress Man is just to make that plot work, because it couldn't
exactly
work if you didn't do that.
Yeah. It gives that entire like B plot a lot more weight and a lot more agency in the story than it would have if it just like exclusively took place from Barry's perspective, because otherwise they're just a voice on the phone,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously until they come and like try and kill him.
But even then, like Philip Seymour Hoffman kind of thing, would just be a voice on the phone.
I was about to say he lends a surprisingly great. I mean, obviously, I think Philip Seymour Hoffman is like probably one of the greatest actors to ever do it. But he lends a really great physicality and like presence to like that whole plot line, makes it feel a lot more immediate and threatening.
Yeah, it's about like, I think one more question, because I can't think of anything else to add on to anyway.
Yeah.
But what do you think of like that plot line? Like he must become the beat up brother, go to Utah to threaten Philip
You're
Seymour
saying
Hoffman
like
with the fact that he has love now.
Okay,
like,
so you're saying like
that?
He has to like
from when the brothers show up to like the end of that conflict. What do you think of that inclusion in the story? Because it's very odd.
You think it's odd?
I think it's odd. It's odd to be written in.
I thought it was very odd the first time I watched it, and then I watched it again, and I'm like, it makes sense in Barry's mind that he would have to go and like deal with this once and for all, because after they hurt Lena that he feels like he really has to like go and do something.
I get why his character feels like he has to leave immediately.
Yeah.
That's not as much why I'm saying like the inclusion of that in general is a very odd thing in the story that they're telling.
I don't know. I think it lends the movie a lot more, like, I think it gives the movie the violent edge that I feel like it almost needed. I don't know why I feel like the movie needed a violent edge, but
it is called Punch Drunk
I was about to say
Love.
it's called Punch Drunk Love. And
He's a technically speaking violent character.
I was about to say he's a very angry character. He like rips apart an entire bathroom in a restaurant with his bare hands. But I don't know. I don't know if I could list like a specific reason it needed to be there, but it makes a lot of emotional sense and narrative sense like while I'm watching it, like for it to be there. But I don't have like a good reason why.
I think it's interesting that it gives kind of like a quote unquote not positive, but like framed as positive in the movie violent outlet for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I don't think like people who extort other people and scam them for money are like morally upstanding people.
Yes, but
I don't think they should be beaten to a bloody pulp.
I was about to say the way the action scene is like framed when he starts like when he just absolutely destroys the brothers is so
well, it's
odd.
not excessive.
It's not excessive.
Yeah.
He like knocks them all out.
He just takes them
once.
out. Yeah.
But like the way it's framed, like the little spins and like the way the smoothness of his motion is very like odd to me.
I think I don't know. I've always really loved that scene because it makes a lot of sense, because like now Barry has a justification for like the anger he usually feels for no reason. Or, well, not for no reason, but usually like an abundance of anger for like it's disproportionate to what it should be.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because after he goes to Utah, I don't think he's really angry again for the rest of the film.
Exactly.
After he goes to Utah and is like, I have love now. So maybe it's kind of like he doesn't. Maybe it's like he's like moving through. His
exactly. No, I was
stuff.
about to say he's finally. Well, the whole like ending part of this movie is he's finally like he feels like he's in control, quote unquote, of his emotions now. Like he knows how to deal with them in some sort of way.
Because he has love.
I was about to say
he has somebody who understands.
Exactly.
him.
He has someone who finally understands him, so he doesn't feel like radically lost when it comes to dealing with any emotion that pops up whenever, whatever.
Yeah, but I hadn't thought about that. But after he goes to Utah, and even his Utah interaction is way less like
he's very controlled. He's very just matter of fact. I don't know. I've always loved that plot point. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, it's just odd. Like from a story writing standpoint, obviously, I think it works emotionally. I never you never question it emotionally while you watch it. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was again odd from a story standpoint.
Yeah, no. If I was writing this, I would not have thought to do that. But like, I think it's a pretty brilliant move. I think it works really well in the movie.
But yeah, do you have any other questions, any other things to bring up?
I was gonna ask you what your favorite scene was or sequence, but there's a lot of really, really good ones here in my mind. Anyway, there's like at least 3 or 4 like all-time great sequences here.
Yeah, I mean, the phone call is obviously
amazing.
It's I think it's one of like the sharpest moments of filmmaking in this movie, and obviously Adam Sandler and Philip Seymour Hoffman screaming at each other is amazing.
They're so good. The way they control like their tone and like just the general rhythm of that scene, which it's very well edited.
I was about to say the editing is like, the way it controls who has the frame.
Exactly.
How it ends with Philip Seymour Hoffman's character not even getting a shot anymore, just Barry.
Right? Oh, it's so good. Yeah, shout out to Leslie Jones. She's like the greatest editor.
She edited The Thin Red Line.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was about to say, very cool, very good work.
But no, probably that scene is the one I would just point to as what I think is like the best scene, one of my favorites from this. But I also particularly like the Hawaii sequence for just Barry and Lena.
I was about to say that just like the stuff leading into like Hawaii or like the He Needs Me sequence, because that's what I think is like
amazing.
Probably one of the best things.
Yeah,
about
like
this movie.
just from the He Needs Me sequence, honestly, to like the phone call with his sister, like at the end,
dude. When
like,
the little light comes on in the phone booth, that's movie magic, baby.
I was about to say from that point to the end of the Hawaii stuff, that is like when it's going like it's absolute like most romantically charged.
It's so beautiful. I love that part of the movie so much. It feels like magic.
And again, it's where you get Lena and Barry actually interacting the most. And I really like that. Because, like, being able to see them play off of each other, even like, the conversation they have in bed during that one thing plays to the fact that, like, they like, are comfortable and actually understand each other.
That scene is, like, one of the sweetest scenes in any romance movie I've ever seen. The, like, quote, sex scene in this movie, if you could call it that.
No, it's really funny, because I guarantee, I haven't watched this with Haley yet, but I guarantee I'm going to watch this with Haley, and she's going to react so disgustedly to what they say.
I think it's, like, one of the sweetest things I've heard on film, and maybe I'm crazy for that.
Well, I mean,
but again, it's like they're so
it shows their understanding of each other, because like again the bite your cheeks thing is like a natural, like, romance thing that is kind of this violent nature of feeling so attracted to someone. That is very rarely discussed, which also kind of leans into, like, what they were going for Punch Drunk Love, which is very
absolutely. I was about to say love is kind of a violent thing in this.
But when Barry, like, responds to the bite your cheeks with something a lot more brutally violent, but he still means it in the same way.
Exactly.
So she ups her ante and goes even more, as, like, showing, like, she understands, and, like, they laugh about it afterwards. It's funny. It's goofy.
I was about to say, I've always loved that scene, and I've never known, like, how other people would react to it.
Yeah, I guarantee I know how Haley would react to this watching it for the first time.
Oh, but yeah, no, I adore that scene, because, like, it feels so incredibly intimate and unfiltered in a way that you hardly ever see that from romantic movies.
Again, it's that weird feeling that not many films describe, that when you're with somebody that you love, especially early on, like, and, like, you're just around them, and there's that electric energy. It's almost violent in a way. It's not, obviously, but, like, again, that's where the whole, like, I just want to eat you up kind of cuteness thing comes from.
Yeah.
Like, it's that feeling of, like, just overwhelming affection for something.
No, I heard someone describe this movie one time as like an ode to the delirium of romance, and I think that's my favorite description of it to this day, because it is a very delirious kind of romance movie in many different ways. But I adore it with all my heart. It's such a good movie.
But yeah.
Yeah,
that's Punch
Drunk Love, man. I'm sure there's a lot of technical stuff that I didn't mention. Honorable mention for my favorite scene, because I think it is the He Needs Me sequence is my favorite. But honorable mention to the initial, like, Lena coming to the office sequence with all the handheld stuff in that. It's so good. And also the pudding shopping leading up to the Hawaii
at the end of the day, as weird as this movie is, and there's a lot of different interesting elements you could read in a lot of different ways, I think it shows, because, like, at the end of the day, the movie makes me just think about my girlfriend, and me being like, oh, I love my girlfriend. And then I'm like, oh, I got to apologize for all the weird stuff I do.
Man,
that's what the film always leaves me with, in a very, like, happy note.
I don't know, this film, since I'm not dating anyone, I am single, to all the recently logged listeners out there. I think even as someone who doesn't have, like, a romantic relationship in their life, I think this leaves me with a very, like, reassured calmness.
Well, again,
which is very nice.
It's like the bread sword chorus.
Exactly.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. Exactly. Like,
it's one of those kind of films that leaves you with the message that at the end of the day, it's gonna be okay.
Like, you're gonna get through it. There are people who are always gonna love you.
There are people for you out there.
Exactly. There's someone. There's people
somebody
who are
understands
going to love you out in the world, and you deserve to be loved. And that's what I always take away from this movie.
Even Barry.
Even Barry. Man, Punch Drunk Love. What a picture.
So what an odd picture. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Again, I give it a 5 out of 5.
I wish I could give it a 6 out of 5.
Phantom Thread's so still better.
Phantom Thread probably better, but I will always, I think, get more out of Punch Drunk Love personally. But yeah, it's
wait.
great.
One
So
more thing.
great.
One more thing.
Okay.
Last thought. I actually am really glad this was made by earlier PTA.
Yeah,
Because he completely
it doesn't fit his.
He started
modern
writing
sensibilities.
differently. This
Yeah.
was like the last film he wrote like this. This is written in such a, because like again, the way Phantom Thread, There Will Be Blood, all of these other films,
Licorice Pizza's written the same
Licorice
way.
Pizza, they're all in that same style of writing of even the way he described it as kind of beats, just going to beat to beat to beat back and forth until he feels it's come to a natural. I don't think this needed that.
This has a very clearly defined like 3-act structure kind of thing, which is something I don't usually see from PTA.
Exactly. So I'm glad it's early PTA
Yeah.
because that's the one thing that really I think makes it stand out even more among his filmography that I've seen, because I haven't seen anything earlier than this from him.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen Hard Eight.
But that's Hard Eight.
Hard Eight is a very, I don't know, it's a very strange movie.
But I honestly just forget it's PTA.
In a good way, Micah?
No.
Darn.
But
Micah's like, I hate PTA. Boo.
But I'm glad it was this early on. I think it was like a perfect storm of a movie, and also put Adam Sandler in a position to work on something like Uncut Gems.
Yeah, no, it's I think honestly you could describe this whole movie as a perfect storm, because like there are so many just like weird and wild things that I hear about it where I'm like, wait, they just like, I don't know, it feels like they just like kind of slapped it together and somehow got like this magic cocktail of like perfect romance film. It's very strange. Also, quick shout out to Jeremy Blake's work on this project, because he does the little like visual interludes and the title sequence paintings. That all of that was Jeremy Blake's work, and it is phenomenal. It's one of the things I love about this movie. I didn't even talk about how like cool the incorporation of John Bryan's score is in this, because like it's one of my favorite movie soundtracks ever. But the way the film kind of moves around it is very awesome. But I wanted to shout out how awesome the visual interludes and stuff were.
Sir, you can't. If you want to talk about everything, just write a video essay about it.
I know. We've taken up like almost a whole hour, and I haven't even gotten out everything I wanted to say about it.
I don't know why you don't just write a video essay, Ruby. That's how you can do a complete.
I'm bad at writing, man.
You can talk about everything you want to talk about.
I'm me bad writer. But it took me, I think, like an hour and a half to write my 2-paragraph review for this originally.
But Robbie, like my Ratatouille video was well written. It wasn't.
No.
It takes doing it. You got to do it to get better at it.
I don't want to.
Even then, I'm not like the greatest writer in the world, but I've significantly improved.
I was about to say, better writer than I am. It just takes me a small eternity to write anything.
That's true. I write fast.
No.
And if I don't write fast, then I die.
It takes me like 3 minutes to write like 2 sentences.
Yeah, I pour stuff out, Robbie, and then I am like, okay, let's evaluate what I just did here.
Let's talk about what just happened.
Let's restructure that a little bit. Let's
see. I try and do that like while I'm writing, so it takes me forever.
Just put what you want to say on the page and then change it.
But yeah, that's Punch Drunk Love.
Let's get into what we watched.
Yeah, let's get into other stuff we watched.
All right, so for those of you who are new to the podcast or have never made it to the What We Watched segment before because we're lame and boring, the What We Watched segment is a little thing we do at the end where we talk about all the other movies we have watched since our last episode.
Yes.
We give brief ratings, brief reviews.
Yes.
We brief.
We're being
Because we went
brief.
long in this episode, man. We spent almost a whole hour just on the film discussion, and we don't normally do that.
It's crazy. But yeah, we're talking about all the stuff we watched basically since the start of February.
Yeah, I'm going to start on the 31st because I watched something after we recorded the episode.
Mr. Fancy over here.
I watched something that night. I watched on the 31st, Three Colors Blue. I started the Three Colors trilogy.
What?
I was very interested. I don't know why I decided to turn this on because, I don't know. They seemed odd.
I mean, the Three Colors trilogy always struck me as something that you would enjoy. I don't know why.
Is. And especially specifically blue hits a lot of stylistic things that I personally would like the kind of thing that I would like to do.
Yeah.
Blue is like really, really good, very visceral, very much like surprisingly gets like understands grief to a really empathetic degree, despite again, it's kind of similarly to, honestly, like Punch Drunk Love, the main character doing some very questionable things. But it's just really, I love what they use for the cinematic language of it.
Nice.
The way they incorporate blue and the way this movie is edited especially even stands out among the trilogy as just being very, very unique and very, very beautiful to me.
Cool.
Very great performances. Cool movie.
I can't wait to see it, man. The Three Colors trilogy. I saw part of White while you were watching,
Which is a very interesting one among the trilogy. They're all very different.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'm kind of curious now.
But I give it a 5 out of 5. Fantastic film. Favorite of the trilogy.
Very cool. On the 1st of February, I watched Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths.
Bardo.
I
was the director who did Birdman.
I forget how to pronounce his name. It's Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's Bardo. I'm a big Birdman guy, so I guess I was bound to love this. But I really liked the cinematography. It got nominated at the Oscars for Best Cinematography, so I mean, what do you expect? But yeah, it's a cool movie. I wish it was a bit tighter in a lot of ways. It's a very like free flowing kind of movie, which is cool, but it doesn't always pull me in the way I wanted to. So I give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was great.
Nice. That night, technically on the 2nd, because I watched it so late, I watched for the very first time Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese.
Dude, I saw someone on the street yesterday who had like the jacket and the mohawk, and I was like, he literally looks
what?
You know,
where?
Walking down
Where
the sidewalk.
Did you see this?
We were driving to
the mall.
Yeah, to the mall. We were driving to the mall, and he was just it wasn't near the mall or anything. He was just on the sidewalk, like next to the road. He was just walking. I saw the mohawk first, and then I'm like, he's wearing a jacket like that. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no. Real Travis. Travis is free.
I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh no, Taxi Driver in real life.
But yeah, I'm a big Paul Schrader fan and a big Martin Scorsese fan.
It's a scary statement.
And this is one of the movies that they did together that I hadn't seen yet.
Big Paul Schrader fan.
Hey, he's a cool writer.
He's a cool writer, yeah.
He's a cool guy. He's just an interesting man. But it was very fantastic, very odd, especially honestly among even Martin Scorsese's filmography. I wasn't expecting it to be the way it was, especially with the weird misinterpretation reputation it has. Like, it's a very slow, contemplative movie that's more in the vein of something like King of Comedy than I thought it would be.
Which is cool. That sounds awesome.
No, it's very unique. It's very interesting. It's very gross and grimy, which is, again,
that's what I'd expect.
It's the Paul Schrader flavor.
It's the Schrader flavor. Unfortunately.
But I really, really liked it. It's not my favorite Martin Scorsese by a long shot, but I do really want to rewatch it. I feel like it would work better on a rewatch, but I also gave it like a 5 out of 5. Like, it's a masterpiece.
Because didn't really work for me.
Favorite.
It didn't really work for me. 5 out of 5.
No, it worked. It just wasn't my favorite. I wrote a really long review about it. Also, nice. I'm really, really upset because the score, it's easily my favorite Scorsese movie score. One of my favorite movie scores I've ever heard, and it is not streaming. So
not streamable.
And that makes me very, very sad.
Try and track down a CD of it or something. I don't know.
It's so good. What did you watch next, Jeremy?
On the afternoon of February 2nd, I watched The Sea Beast, which I think is the last of the Best Animated Feature nominees that I hadn't seen. And unfortunately, all the other nominees are better than this, but it's not bad. It's a Netflix animated film. I actually admire, what it was doing to a degree. I was kind of expecting it to be bad, but it wasn't. So I guess that's on me. I compared it to a ham and cheese sandwich in my review, and I think that's a fair assessment of it. You know, nothing groundbreaking, but perfectly fine. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Pretty much at the same time, actually. I was watching Coolie High.
I'm out here watching Sea Beast. Micah is watching Coolie High. Considerably better.
So I made like a little, because, you know, it's Black History Month. I made a little list of a lot of like black director movies that were kind of classics that I hadn't gotten to yet. And I need to
catch up on some of my black filmmaker history, because
I was very interested in this. And it was really good. I want more. Like, it was sad. It was apparently originally going to be a TV show that didn't get approved. Like, nobody would give it funding as a TV show, so they made it into a movie, which happens apparently more than you'd think. But I almost wish like I just had more time with these characters. It's very much that kind of, like, I mean, it's a high school movie, but it almost taps into that. I guess the closest I could relate it to is like Ferris Bueller, in terms of the fact that it's a movie that feels like these characters are like, it's kind of like living while they can kind of like feeling, and you want to just live with them for as long as they can. Cool. Obviously, I mean, that sounds awesome. Takes a bit more of like a tragic note. Aww. That's kind of the point of the movie. But it's very interesting, and especially the way the aftermath and stuff is done, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's based off of a true story. I don't remember. But anyway, it's very cool, and I liked it, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Very well done. I love the performances in it are fantastic. It's so much fun. Very cool. Very cool. Wow. But yeah, after that or I guess it might have just been late that night. I think it was that night. We watched another Martin Scorsese movie, and it's called Casino. And it's got the best opening credits sequence probably ever. The goofiest opening credits sequence. Okay, what the Saul heck? And Elaine Bass did the opening credits for this, and they're so good. Man, Casino. Very interesting movie. Among Martin Scorsese's movies, though. It's very odd. I don't know, like, even compared to something like Goodfellas, it's kind of strange. So let's see. I was trying to see, because I've seen I've seen 46% of his narrative features, feature-length films. Not bad. So like I've seen a good. You got a good taste, and he's got a lot of movies, so that's a lot of movies. Yeah. And this is again a very odd one. It's very strange. Yeah. It's hard to talk about. Like I didn't know what to say about it when I wrote my review for it either. Like I just don't know what to say about it. It's very weird. It's oddly framed. It's incredibly well shot. Its setting is odd. Its story writing is odd, but yet it works. Like, don't get me wrong, it works. I don't think it's like a masterpiece. I think it's one of his weaker films overall. But at the same time, it's really fantastic. I don't know. It's so strange. It's a very strange movie, and like just about every critical lens I can put on a movie. Like it's very oddly like performed, but like the ensemble really works, and like it's very oddly shot, but it works. Oddly I don't know. Paced. It's oddly paced, oddly structured. Odd. Like. I think like a good maybe 20 or 30% of this movie is like voiceover stuff. Yeah, it's all like literally. I think the entire first, I would say almost like 30 minutes are like back to back voiceover, and yet it works. It works. I don't know. It's very weird. It's a very strange movie. It's one of the best looking Martin Scorsese movies, I would probably say. Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. And I love casinos as settings for movies, which is the reason I wanted to watch this so much in the first place. Yeah, I mean, and I think, I don't know, the incorporation of the soundtrack, it's very similar to Goodfellas in a lot of ways. Yeah. Which is a strange thing. It's like weird. It's strange thing to think about. It's the weird older uncle to Goodfellas. That's kind of funny. And then the Irishman is Goodfellas' grandpa. Does Goodfellas have a lot of voiceover, Micah? Or not Goodfellas? Yes, the Irishman. The Irishman, yes. Wait a minute. I was like, no kidding. I think The Irishman is honestly even more stylistically similar to Goodfellas than this. It just goes about it like the story in a very different way. But again, it's also very similar to Casino. Like Casino, Goodfellas, and The Irishman are very similar films. Interesting.
I mean, I got to watch The Irishman sometime. But yeah, I gave Casino a 5 out of 5. I thought it was phenomenal. There are a few problems I have with it, but they're pretty marginal. But yeah, no, it's cool.
Up next, we went out to the theater. And caught M. Night Shyamalan's brand new, spanking new, shiny new, perfectly little fine
Perfect
picture.
It's Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin. Very excited for a post-Old movie because Old got me very excited for
Shyamalan.
Like Shyamalan again, which I hadn't been for a long time.
I mean, The Sixth Sense is really the only other film of his that I adored.
We were not there for that.
No, we were not there for The Sixth Sense.
So I was not like building hype off of the release of The Sixth Sense for his next picture.
Yeah, because I mean, before this point, like after we started watching movies, I kind of vaguely remember the release of Split, but I
remember the release of Split.
Like The Glass is like the first movie of his that I watched like as it was coming out, kind of thing. You know?
Yeah. I was about to say, I remember.
And Glass is like my least favorite movie.
I remember people talking about After Earth.
Yeah.
I don't remember people talking about The Last Airbender. But yeah, I remember After Earth and The Visit and Split. But like the Glass was like the first one that we were like, oh my god, it's a new movie, we gotta go see it.
Exactly.
And it was bad.
It was bad. But then Old happened, and Old is like one of my favorite thrillers ever now. So I mean, I was really excited for this. I was
to say, usually people consider Sixth Sense to Village to be like where he peaked, like that run of his from
wrong
1999 to 2004.
Incorrect.
But like Split, Old, and Knock at the Cabin. That's pretty crazy.
I think Old and Knock at the Cabin are the two best movies he's done.
Knock at the Cabin,
without question.
Knock at the Cabin, though, very cool movie, shot amazingly well.
Oh my goodness!
One of the most gorgeous looking thrillers I've ever seen.
The cinematography in this, man. It's got a real like claustrophobic functionality to it, and like it really highlights like the great performances that are in this.
I love the performances. I love the sense of romance between the two main characters.
Yeah,
like their relationship is honestly like part of the core of the movie.
No, it's a good anchoring force for the movie. It really pays off well at the end.
Dave Bautista's character is really, really fun. But it didn't work for me quite as well as I wish it did, but I can't really get into why without spoilers.
Oh yeah, I forgot,
which I don't want to spoil.
Trying to avoid spoiling Knock at the Cabin, right?
It just came out, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. I think I adore Old a bit more. Like I like it a bit more just because of how like kind of crazy and bonkers Old is compared to this. This is a much more controlled effort from M. Night Shyamalan. And, you know, I can admire it for what it is, but I think I'll always prefer Old just a teensy bit. But, like, two of the best thrillers, I think, of the past, like, couple of years, honestly. Old and Knock at the Cabin. Yeah, it's really great. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Next up, I watched on the 5th Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. My very first Spike Lee picture. I want to watch. I need to get to some more this month. I really want to. I want to watch Malcolm X and Black Klansman. Those
I've had Black Klansman for like a couple years now, and I haven't watched it.
But Do the Right Thing is probably one of the best films ever made. It's really, really it's like everything about it feels instantly classic. Nice. And like just like really smooth to be in. Like it's one of those movies that just feels like a perfectly designed world almost. Like it's just such a well written, well thought out, well presented, well designed. Like everything about it just works. Which is odd because this movie had such a small budget. This is like hailed as an amazing like low budget film.
I mean,
it's insane.
Everything I've seen from it looks like very low budget. Like you can tell.
But man, it works so well, and the cast is insane. I can't believe I didn't even know Spike Lee acted. I did not realize that Spike Lee was like the main.
He's staring up at you on the poster.
I didn't know what Spike Lee looked like.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Didn't recognize him without his little purple suit and glasses.
I had seen him in the purple suit era of Spike Lee, but I had not seen him looking like this. And then when I made the connection, I was like, OMG, it's Spike Lee.
Spike Lee, guys. Look, there he is.
He gives such a good performance. And like it's such an interesting take on like the way it goes about talking about racism and societal stuff. And I watched some interviews from Spike Lee afterwards. Like I watched some of like the supplements and stuff. even though I don't have the Criterion. HBO had some of the stuff for it. And it's such an interesting film. I really love it. It's fascinating and like perfect in every way.
I mean, outside of Black Klansman, I think that's the film I'm most excited to see of his is Do the Right Thing. Because I haven't seen any of his stuff yet.
One of the easiest 5 out of 5s I've given to a movie.
Nice. On the 5th, I watched one of the Oscar nominees. You'll notice most of the films I watched over the course of this month were Oscar nominees.
And most of the films I watched over the course of this month were a bunch of really critically acclaimed classics I hadn't watched yet.
But I watched To Leslie, which is a film. It's like a slice of life film. It was sweet. It was kind of weird. I saw a lot of people calling it like misery porn, which it is to a degree. But like, I don't know. I think it works. I think it kind of pays off well. I really like the central performances for it, which I mean is what it got nominated for. So I guess it makes sense. But it's not perfect by any degree, but I thought it was, pretty great. So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice.
It's got a very authentic vibe to it.
Then on the 7th, I watched Three Colors White. White. Which was my least favorite of the trilogy, but was still very good. It's got a very unique framing. I think it's my least favorite just because white, like just what they were going for with white connects with me the least personally.
Yeah.
It's a lot more mundane purposefully. It's a lot more like, I don't know, it's very odd. And it's honestly, I think Yossi put it in his review that it's like the most conventional feeling of the series. Like just like a conventionally entertaining, which is interesting compared to like Blue and even Red.
Good friend of the podcast, Yossi, providing his wisdom.
So yeah, it wasn't my favorite of the series. A criminal underuse of Julie Delpy after watching Before Sunrise. I'm like, she should have been in the entire movie. But yeah, very cool, very neat movie. I mean, for what portion of White I saw, she was very good at it. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. I logged something on that day.
I didn't log it, but I did watch it.
I logged John Mulaney, the Comeback Kid, which was the last of his specials that I hadn't seen.
On Netflix.
Yeah, his Netflix ones. But yeah, no, it's really good.
Like I said, I think it's his weakest Netflix special out of those 3, but they're all good.
I was about to say, I absolutely loved Kid Gorgeous, obviously, like everyone. I think everyone Gorgeous, even remotely close to my age loves
amazing.
Kid Gorgeous.
New in Town as well. New in Town is super
amazing.
Is amazing. Everyone loves New in Town.
But yeah, Comeback Kid, I think some of his weaker bits are in this. The thing is, it's not like his worst material isn't here. But I would argue like it's his consistently like not it's not as consistently great.
There's not as many like just absolutely outstanding like bits.
It's just all it's just all great. Like none of it's outstandingly amazing, but all of it's great. I thought it was a lot of fun, and of course, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. Then on the 8th, what did you watch?
Shoot, you didn't watch anything on the 8th?
I didn't watch anything on the 8th. I had a life, a job, if you will.
Darn it. Well, I watched this very late at night. It's a little film called Empire of Light, written and directed by Sam Mendes. Director of American Beauty and 1917. 2 films that I have not seen, but I hope are better than Empire of Light. I don't know. Empire of Light's kind of a wash in like every aspect. It doesn't really know what it wants to be, and it kind of fails at everything it attempts to do. It's not really like a magic of the cinema movie. It kind of like fundamentally fails as one of those kind of movies. It's not really a good romance movie. It kind of fundamentally fails at being a good romance. And it's not like a good like I don't want to say like activist movie, but like, it's set during the 80s, and like racism is a big theme in the movie, but it doesn't tackle it with enough like weight or dedicate enough time to it for it to have any sort of like meaningful impact on the film itself,
Yeah.
It's just a very wishy-washy movie. And I mean, Olivia Colman's good in it, but honestly, I would say just skip Empire of Light. Like Roger Deakins does a great job shooting it. It looks great. But like it kind of fundamentally failed for me in just about every other aspect. But it's not like bad. It's just everything about it doesn't work like the way I want it to. But I gave it a 3 out of 5. I don't think it's dipping into bad movie territory, but it made me sad more than anything. And I also watched a film called All That Breathes, which got nominated for Best Documentary. And it was a good documentary.
I would have watched all of it, but I had to go to work.
Yeah, Micah caught, I think, like the first half or so of this, and it was really cool. It's about a couple guys who trying to save some birds.
As someone who studied ornithology too, I think that's something I can appreciate.
Yeah, you should finish it sometime.
I should.
It's a lot of fun.
But no, it's very, very well shot from what I saw.
Shot. Oh my goodness. Honestly, I think the cinematography here is like one of the best things about it. I mean, it's got a pretty cool like narrative structure, and like editing is really good. But like honestly, the cinematography and the pure ambition of the way they shoot it is very cool. And I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. Very good movie, All That Breathes.
Then on the 9th, I watched Shaft. The 71 Shaft, the original.
I'm very excited to watch Shaft. I don't know why. I've been very pumped.
What a weird movie. It's like the most 70s movie I've ever seen. Like lots of groovies and like, like stuff like that like I've always seen people like reference in relation to the 70s, but I've never seen portrayed in a 70s
Quite
movie.
Funny. You got me so excited to watch it now.
But it's really fun. The action set pieces are fun.
Yeah.
John Shaft is a really fun character, especially Richard Roundtree's performance. Like he's very magnetic. You really
nice.
You want to watch more of him. I doubt the sequels.
There's the 2 sequels.
Shaft's Big Score and Shaft in Africa.
Oh no, not Shaft in Africa.
Which I just think are funny. I doubt they're nearly as good as this, but it's a pretty small stakes, like not small stakes, like there are big stakes, but it's like a very small scale feeling
cool
action movie there's like some really fun set pieces, fun action, characters that are cool. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it was good and I really enjoyed it. I would definitely rewatch it sometime.
Nice.
I give it a 4 out of 5.
I mean, it sounds awesome, honestly.
Then on the 10th, I watched Devil in a Blue Dress.
Devil in a Blue Dress.
Freaking Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington, baby.
Love me some Denzel.
We here at Recently Logged, we are big fans of Denzel
Especially
Washington.
90s Denzel. What's up with that,
Goodness, man?
But yeah, very excited for Devil in a Blue Dress. It looked very much up my alley. Didn't really know what it was about though, and I watched it, and it's super fun. It's like a noir kind of noir, like it's so noir-y, like post noir.
Post noir.
And it's just really neat. The characters are so much fun. I love stories written like this, where like the story, and it's a classic noir thing where like everybody else knows more than our little detective character at the center.
Those are fun.
Don Cheadle comes in and gives like a really fun performance with a really funny character, and like it's just a fun movie. Denzel really sells it. His performance just makes it really work. The story is tight, snappy. It looks good. It sounds good. The story, I don't know.
I mean, you honestly could have just said Denzel Washington noir, and I would have been like, all right, I'm on board.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Very cool.
Unfortunately, though, it was very much overshadowed because although I really loved Devil in a Blue Dress, later that very same night, I watched Mulholland Drive for the first time.
Mulholland Drive.
It was better.
It was a better movie.
And I haven't stopped thinking about Mulholland Drive. And it's really, really good.
I'm so excited for it now.
I picked up the Criterion for it on a whim from a used Blu-ray store because I really wanted to watch another David Lynch film. And, I didn't see Inland Empire laying around anywhere. And so I picked it up and I watched it, and it was just, it's so up my alley. It's so my kind of thing. Like, this is the kind of film that I would want to make, which is kind of goofy. But even, like, my short films that I've made are very much like, I'm not specific. I've never specifically tried to go in a David Lynch style. That has
Yeah.
never been my goal. But oftentimes, like the kind of stuff that I want to go for, obviously I am no David Lynch. I don't execute things well. My short films are just me trying to experiment with stuff.
Yeah.
But like I often want to go for a lot of the feelings that I get from David Lynch's work.
Lying on the floor crying. That's the main thing.
This movie's creepy, tragic, very, very cool, edited like nobody's business, shot like nobody's business, acted like nobody's business, written like nobody's business. Never seen another film like it. The closest thing I could relate it to is Twin Peaks, obviously, and also apparently, well, it's just very tonally similar to Twin Peaks, surprisingly. And apparently it was originally supposed to be a spin-off of Twin Peaks, I found out from the Criterion book, which is really funny. It very much feels it.
I can't wait to see it, man. I've adored what I've seen of Twin Peaks so
But again,
far.
another very easy 5 to give out.
Nice.
I absolutely loved it. I haven't stopped thinking about it.
Very cool.
Also on the 11th, I watched Night of the Coconut.
Night of the Coconut.
Patrick Willems' season finale of his YouTube channel. That got a
I love Patrick
that got a
Willems, man.
weird theater release and a couple.
It got a theater release
in like AMC. I think.
Dude, that's so cool.
Did you not see that?
I forgot about it. I
Yeah.
think I did see it.
That was why that's why he did the little AMC thing at the front, because he got it in one theater.
That's crazy, dude. Night of the Coconut. It's a cool movie.
But you know, it's fun. It's goofy. I think it's neat as a project that it got made. I don't think it's that good overall. Like it's not bad by any means. I think it's fun and engaging, and it's not like poorly paced or anything. But I think the writing is obviously like it's.
Yeah. I mean, it was originally shot as like a narrative segment of a YouTube video, and then they went too long.
Exactly. Like it's nothing like crazy, but it's still really fun. And again, I put it in my review. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's not trying to be. So like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's still really fun and a cool project. And there's nothing like egregiously wrong.
There's so many great bits in Night of the Coconut.
Yeah, it's really funny. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Nice.
Then also on the 11th, I rewatched Barbarian.
Stop watching the movies.
I watched it with my mom. She hadn't watched it when we watched it.
It's like finally I can show Barbarian to my mom.
I watched it with my mom. She liked it.
What would Freud say?
Oh no. Cool movie. It's weird on a rewatch, I'll have to admit. I don't know how I feel about it on a
strange movie.
But yeah, still liked it. 4 stars, 4 out of 5. Then on the 12th, I watched 3 Colors Red, finished up the trilogy, second best, but honestly, especially coming in with this movie is like the most like My Dinner with Andre out of the trilogy, which is funny. It's mostly just 2 people sitting around talking.
Nice.
Which I was not expecting from Red. But watching this really ties together the trilogy in a really thematic, unique way, and I love what the trilogy was trying to do. And as a work of art, as a total, like all 3 movies, they're all like it's a masterpiece. It's a 5 out of 5, easy. But I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
There you go.
As an individual movie, still really loved it. The main girl, Irene Jacob, amazing. She's really, really good. And I just love I think it's one of the more impressively written out of the trilogy. Very, very cool movie. Then what did we watch, Remy?
Then we sat down and we watched Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I was actually like kind of a pretty big fan of Black Panther.
No, I really
love
Black Panther.
the
That's like
first
my
one,
favorite
yeah.
Marvel movie almost.
No, it's not mine.
I
But
think something like Iron Man probably is. But like Black Panther is up there for me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the better of the MCU project. But like, honestly, Wakanda Forever just, I don't know, it falls flat in so many ways.
I hate to say it because I think I largely attribute a lot of the major problems with this to the fact that Chadwick Boseman died.
Yeah,
and they had to, because they already had this kind of planned out before he did, and I think even like at least I think there was a draft of the script done before he died.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
so they had to completely scrap that and change things around.
They ended up with a sloppy movie.
Yeah, and it's just sloppy at the end of the day. Like nothing in it works as well as it could. Everything feels rushed. The Shuri and Namor stuff is just weird. like the way it's
I don't know,
framed. Like I like Namor a
It's
lot.
strange. Yeah, I love Namor as like as a character, like in concept, and he's a fun presence in the movie too. But I don't know. It's a well directed movie, but it's just a very kind of poorly written and structured movie.
Yeah, like Namor is probably easily the best thing in there, and then at the same time, all of the underwater stuff is embarrassingly bad next to The Way of Water, which came out like right next to it.
Yeah.
So the only stuff I ever even like felt anything from was anything that actually reminded me that Chadwick passed away, because he's a really sweet guy. I mean, really great actor.
Yeah, I was about to say he was a great actor. That honestly, his performance is one of the things that really sold me on Black Panther.
I was about to say his passing was super tragic.
Yeah.
But like I even put it in my review, this doesn't even, like, it still revolves around like vengeance, which most of the Black Panther things in the MCU have, but I don't think it even hits the emotional depth or complexity that like Black Panther and Civil War does.
Yeah, which is a shame. I don't know, like I felt kind of like sad watching Wakanda Forever, and not for like the right reason.
Yeah, I was kind of boring. I thought like most of the new suit designs of everything are ugly. Gosh. Like not the Black Panther.
I was about to say I actually don't
Black
mind
Panther
the new Black Panther suit, but all the other ones.
Namor's suit's fine, but like, dude, the ones that they design. Like the little fake Iron Man suit is ugly as all get out. That is like the ugliest thing I've ever seen in something not Power Rangers. It looks like a Power Ranger
I was about to say,
suit.
dude, this looks like an Amazon Prime type suit. Like...
Right. And then we have the little thing that Shuri designs for them, and it looks like a freaking off-brand like Predator suit. It does not
crazy,
look good.
Man. I don't know. There's so many like just bafflingly kind of either just not necessarily even bad decisions, but just like boring or weird decisions.
I was about to say, I still put it's a heck of a lot more competent than anything from the MCU has been lately. Like, obviously, I still think Ryan Coogler is like he's a good director.
No, there's a lot of great like directorial stuff going on in Wakanda Forever. It's just kind of a mess.
Yeah, I think the screenplay kind of got the short end of the stick from everything that happened.
I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it a 2.5.
And then last night on the 13th, we watched Punch Drunk Love in preparation for this.
Let's get into talking about Punch Drunk Love. I mean, do you have any questions?
I have something to say about that movie. I hope you enjoyed our Valentine's Day episode.
Happy Valentine's Day.
This episode is like gonna be almost as long as Punch Drunk Love.
At the moment, we're about to hit the runtime of Punch Drunk Love.
But yeah,
which hey, that's Yossi's. That's his goal when he said he wanted to make any episode on the podcast to be as long as the movie we talk about.
It's funny. I mean, as always, thank you for tuning in. Go check out this will be like our second time plugging it. Go onto Letterboxd if you have a Letterboxd account and follow Recently Logged. We have an HQ page where you can keep up with all of our stuff.
And if you don't have a Letterboxd account, you can make one and only follow us and not interact with anything else.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just at Recently Logged.
It's the pretty much the central hub of Recently Logged. You'll be able to see our list.
That is where you should go.
From previous series, and
there's a discussion board up there too if you ever want to send us a question or whatever,
ask to be on the podcast. Dude, you just go there. But you can also find us on like Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, I mean we have all the links in YouTube, the description. I'm at Robbie Grayway pretty much everywhere, and the podcast is at Recently Logged pretty much everywhere.
Go check out my YouTube channel. I've been trying to write a very, very large video on The Last of Us Part 2 while also working a heck ton. So I have written about half of it.
I was about to say, it's a rather ambitious project, I think.
Yeah, especially the way I want to go about talking about it. It's very daunting. Hopefully it'll turn out to something halfway decent. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the new show. So
the HBO
I'm doing a little series on The Last of Us. I also just did a video on Bluey you could check out too.
Bluey. It was a good video, I think.
Yeah, Robbie Grayway endorsement.
He's Robbie Grayway endorsement.
He supports me on Patreon.
That's true.
Go to patreon.com/mgrayway.
Oh no.
Anyway, guys, bye. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Go watch a
some
good
movies.
romance movie.
Yeah.
Go watch like In the Mood for Love or something. I don't know.
Don't go watch Mulholland Drive for Valentine's Day. Bad call.
If you're up for Punch Drunk Love and its content, which it is an R-rated movie, just be warned. Go watch that because I think it's phenomenal. But yeah, hope you guys have a good day and a good week and a good life.
Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.